The Ghost drifted through the dark void between Mars and Earth, its phase drive permanently damaged after the battle with the Vorax flagship. Lisa Mason sat in her captain's chair reviewing damage reports from across the ship. Their victory had come. At a steep cost, engineering reports catastrophic damage to the phase core. Susan Patel said, her voice tired after days of emergency repairs. We can maintain basic propulsion, but the phase technology is offline. We are visible to all sensors now, Lisa nodded grimly. Without their ability to phase, the Ghost was just another ship vulnerable like any other. She looked around at her exhausted crew. They had fought beyond all reasonable expectations and somehow survived while dealing the Vorax their first known defeat in centuries. Navigation estimates Earth arrival in 48 hours. Kelly Harris reported from her station. Communications are receiving broadcasts from Earth Defense Command. They want immediate debriefing on the Vorax technology and battle tactics. Lisa understood the urgency. The retreat of the alien fleet was temporary. The Vorax would return with greater numbers and adapted strategies. The Phantom drone technology and phase capabilities were humanity's best advantage, and now the prototype vessel could barely limp home. We need to get this ship to the Armstrong shipyards. She decided they can analyze the phase core and figure out how to stabilize the technology for the next generation of vessels. The crew worked tirelessly. As the Ghost made its slow journey back to Earth, repair teams in environmental suits patched hull breaches while engineering crews fought to keep life support systems operational. The ship had never been designed for prolonged conventional travel. Every system strained under the pressure on. The second-day alarms blared across the command deck. Sensor contact. Kelly shouted, multiple vessels on intercept course, energy signatures match. Vorax scout ships. Lisa felt her heart sink. They hadn't retreated, as far as hoped. The Vorax must have left behind scout vessels to track any damaged human ships. The Ghost had been their primary target all along. We can't outrun them, Susan said from engineering. Not in this condition, and without phase capability. We can't hide. Lisa studied the tactical display. The scout ships were small but heavily armed. The Ghost in its current state would be no match for them in direct combat. They needed another strategy. What about the Phantom drones? Lisa asked. Do we have any left? Kelly checked inventory. 4 operational drones, remaining power reserves at 30%. Without the phase core to power them, they won't last long. 4 would have to be enough. Lisa formulated a plan quickly. Prepare the drones for remote operation. Program them to mimic our energy signature exactly. Once launched, we go dark. All non-essential systems offline. We drift on momentum only. The crew moved with practiced efficiency despite their exhaustion. The 4 remaining Phantom drones were prepared and loaded with the Ghost's energy signature patterns. As the Vorax scouts closed in, Lisa gave the command launch drones scattered pattern. Initiate full system shutdown in 30 seconds. The drones shot away from the Ghost, each heading in a different direction. The ship systems began shutting down section by section until only minimal life support and passive sensors remained active. The temperature aboard the ship plummeted as heating systems went offline. The crew put on thermal gear as their breath became visible in the frigid air. Through passive sensors, they watched the Vorax scouts change course, pursuing the Phantom drones that perfectly mimicked the Ghost's energy signature. The alien vessels split up, each chasing a different drone deeper into the solar system. It worked, Kelly whispered, her voice barely audible in the silent bridge. For now, Lisa replied. The drone's power would last perhaps 6 hours before failing. With luck, that would be enough time for the Ghost to drift beyond the search perimeter. Hours passed in tense silence. The crew spoke in hushed tones, conserving oxygen and heat. The ship grew colder with each passing hour. Ice crystals formed on interior bulkheads. Crew members huddled together in small groups, sharing body heat one by one. The Phantom drones went dark on their sensors. Power depleted. Lisa knew the Vorax would realize the deception soon. They needed to remain silent for as long as possible. 2 more days passed in this state, the Ghost drifting on its original trajectory toward Earth, running on absolute minimum power. The crew rotating 4-hour shifts to conserve resources. Medical reported 3 cases of hypothermia, and numerous minor injuries from cold-related accidents on. The fifth day, Mary Rodriguez, Director of Earth Defense, personally contacted the Ghost using tight beam communications undetectable by distant sensors. Commander Mason, we have a rescue fleet on approach to your position. Mary transmitted, stay dark. For 12 more hours they will find you. Lisa acknowledged with a simple signal ping, the shortest possible transmission to avoid detection. 12 more hours in freezing darkness seemed an eternity. But they had endured worse. When the Earth rescue vessels finally arrived, the crew of the Ghost were barely conscious, most suffering from advanced hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. Medical teams rushed aboard with heating equipment and emergency supplies. As Lisa was helped to a medical transport, she looked back at her ship. The Ghost had survived against impossible odds. Its secrets would help build the next generation of phantom vessels. Humanity had a fighting chance against the Voraks because of what they had accomplished. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the Voraks appeared in their solar system, humanity had hope. Lisa closed her eyes as the medical transport accelerated toward Earth. Her crew was safe. Their mission successful. The next battle would come soon. Enough for now, they had earned their rest. 3 months passed since the Ghost limped back to Earth. The Armstrong shipyards orbiting the moon had become the center of humanity's desperate preparation for the next Voraks assault. Lisa Mason stood at the observation deck watching as workers swarmed over the skeletal frames of new vessels, each designed with the improved phase technology, reverse-engineered from the Ghost Commander Mason. A voice called from behind her. Lisa turned to see Mary Rodriguez approaching the Director of Earth. Defense looked tired with new lines etched into her face. The responsibility of defending humanity against an overwhelmingly powerful enemy had taken its toll. The first 3 ships of the new Phantom Fleet will be operational next week, Mary said. The engineers have stabilized the phase core technology. Your battle data was invaluable. Lisa nodded, her eyes returning to the shipyard. We won't have enough. Even with the new ships, the Voraks will return with their entire armada next time. Mary handed Lisa a tablet displaying classified schematics. A new design for Phantom drones, double the capability at half the power requirement. We can mass produce these much faster than building capital ships. The strategy was clear. The new human fleet would rely heavily on deception, using limited actual ships combined with thousands of Phantom projections to confuse and misdirect the Voraks fleet. The phase technology would allow human vessels to strike from unexpected vectors, then disappear before retaliation. I want you to command the first new vessel, Mary said. It's called the Spectre. Twice the size of the Ghost with 3 times the firepower and an improved phase core. Your experience makes you the only choice. Lisa hesitated. Her memories of the battle still haunted her dreams. The faces of crew members who didn't survive. The terror of drifting powerless through space pursued by Vorak scouts. She had spent weeks in medical recovery after the rescue. The doctors said she was fit for duty, but doubts lingered in her mind. While Lisa considered the offer, alarms suddenly blared throughout the shipyard. Emergency broadcasts interrupted all communications. Attention, all personnel. Long-range sensors have detected Voraks vessels entering the solar system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. All civilian transports evacuate immediately. All military personnel report to battle stations. Mary grabbed Lisa's arm. The intelligence report said we had at least 2 more months. Lisa was already moving toward the command center. They must have developed faster drives after studying our technology. The Voraks adapted quicker than expected. The observation deck emptied as personnel rushed to their emergency stations. The massive view screens showed real-time sensor data. Vorak ships, hundreds of them, were approaching from beyond Neptune, their improved engines pushing them at speeds human vessels couldn't match. Lisa arrived at the command center alongside Mary. The room buzzed with frantic activity as officers coordinated evacuation efforts and military responses. Status report. Mary demanded. Admiral Wilson, a veteran of the first encounter, stepped forward. Our main fleet is scattered across the system. We can only gather about 40% of our forces in time to meet this attack. The new Phantom ships are not ready for deployment. Lisa studied the tactical displays. The Vorax fleet had split into 3 battle groups, one heading toward Earth, one toward Mars, and one directly for the Armstrong shipyards. They somehow knew exactly where to strike. They tracked the Ghost. Lisa realized. They followed us back here. They know this is our primary shipyard. Mary turned to her engineering team. Is the Spectre operational? The UI chief engineer shook her head. The phase core is installed, but weapons and life support are still being calibrated. We need at least 72 hours. We don't have 72 minutes, Mary replied grimly. Lisa stepped forward. The Spectre can move, though right. Even without weapons, technically, yes, the engineer admitted. But without proper calibration, the phase core could destabilize. It's too risky. I piloted the Ghost with a damaged core. Lisa countered. I know the signs. I can keep it stable. Mary understood immediately. You want to use the Spectre as bait? Draw the Vorax away from the shipyard. Lisa nodded. The Spectre has the most advanced phase signature in the fleet. They'll detect it as something new, something worth pursuing. If I can lead them away, give you time to evacuate the critical technology and personnel. The plan was desperate, but they had no alternatives. Mary gave the authorization. Lisa ran toward the docking bay where the Spectre waited, partially completed. She assembled a volunteer skeleton crew, mostly veterans from the Ghost who understood the risks. Susan Patel, her former engineer, was already aboard the Spectre when Lisa arrived. I figured you'd try something crazy, she said with a grim smile. The phase core is unstable, but I can keep it running. Within 20 minutes, the Spectre detached from its construction berth. The unfinished ship looked like a Ghost itself, with exposed framework and missing hull plates. The bridge was operational, but many systems remained in testing mode. Warning lights flashed across every console. Lisa took the command chair, feeling its unfamiliar contours. This ship was larger, more advanced than the Ghost, but still felt like home somehow. She opened a channel to the shipyard. This is Commander Mason aboard the Spectre. We are initiating phase drive in 30 seconds. Recommend all personnel evacuate to emergency bunkers. The massive engines of the Spectre hummed to life. The phase core glowed with an eerie blue light as Susan coaxed power through untested conduits. The ship shuddered, then seemed to flicker as the phase technology engaged. Not fully disappearing, but becoming indistinct, like an image seen through water. Long-range sensors confirm the Vorax battle group has detected us, Kelly Harris reported from the tactical station. They are altering course to pursue estimated intercept in 40 minutes. Lisa set course away from the shipyard, heading toward the outer planets at maximum speed. The phase drive protested, the strain indicators flashing red across engineering displays. The Spectre accelerated faster than any human ship before it, the phase technology allowing it to partially bypass normal physical limitations. The pursuing Vorax vessels adjusted their course, matching the unexpected speed. Their determination to capture the new human technology evident in their single-minded pursuit. Susan worked frantically at the engineering station, phase core temperature exceeding safety parameters, she warned. We're pushing it too hard. We need another 20 minutes, Lisa replied. Keep it together just a little longer. Behind them, the Armstrong shipyards erupted with activity as evacuation ships launched in rapid succession. Critical technology prototype, vessels and essential personnel evacuating to secret facilities on Earth and Mars. The other 2 Vorax battle groups continued toward their original targets, but the group that had been targeting the shipyard remained focused on the Spectre. The plan was working, but the cost might be the loss of the most advanced ship humans had ever built, along with its volunteer crew. Lisa accepted this reality with grim determination. She had survived one suicide mission against the odds. Perhaps they would survive this one too. As the Spectre raced toward the asteroid belt, Susan suddenly shouted from engineering breakthrough. I found a way to stabilize the phase matrix by routing power through the auxiliary systems. We can maintain this speed without overload. For the first time since the alarm sounded, Lisa allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. They might complete their mission, and survive to fight another day. The future of humanity still hung in the balance. But thanks to the crew of the Spectre, that future still existed. The Spectre raced through the asteroid belt, its phase technology allowing it to pass partially through solid matter. The pursuing Vorax vessels were forced to navigate around the larger asteroid, slowing their pursuit. Lisa watched the tactical display with cautious optimism. Their desperate gambit was working. The shipyard evacuation was nearly complete according to encrypted transmissions from Earth Defense Command. "We need to maintain this lead for another 30 minutes, Kelly reported. From tactical, "Then the shipyard will have completed full evacuation." Lisa nodded, studying the engine performance metrics. The phase core temperature had stabilized thanks to Susan's brilliant reconfiguration, but they were still pushing the untested systems beyond their design parameters. Small failures were cascading through secondary systems. Warning indicators flashed across multiple stations. "The Vorax ships have changed formation," Kelly suddenly announced. "They're spreading out 6 vessels, moving to flank positions." Lisa recognized the tactic immediately. "They're trying to hurt us. They know we can't maintain this speed forever." The asteroid belt provided temporary advantage, but once they cleared it, the Vorax would have open space to execute their encirclement strategy. Lisa needed a new plan. She called up the star charts of the outer solar system, searching for options. Set course for Saturn's rings. Lisa ordered maximum phase variance. Susan looked up from engineering with alarm. "That level of phase variance hasn't been tested. The core might not handle the strain. We don't have a choice," Lisa replied. "If we maintain current course, they'll trap us before we clear the belt." The helm officer adjusted their trajectory, aiming toward the distant, ringed planet. The phase variance controls were pushed to their limits, causing the Spectre to flicker more dramatically between normal space and phase space. The ship seemed to become almost transparent at moments, then snap back to solidity. A Sci-Fi effect was disorienting, even to the crew who understood the technology. Saturn's dense rings would provide the perfect hiding place. The billions of ice particles and rock fragments would confuse Vorax sensors, especially if the Spectre maintained high phase variance. They might be able to lose their pursuers long enough to double back toward Earth. The Vorax commanders recognized the strategy. Their pursuit vessels accelerated to dangerous speeds, trying to catch the Spectre before it reached. Saturn's small Vorax fighters launched from the larger vessels, spreading out in a wide search pattern. "Fighters incoming," Kelly warned. 30+ contacts closing rapidly. The Spectre had no operational weapons. Its defensive systems were still undergoing calibration. They were essentially defenseless against a determined attack. Lisa made a quick decision. Phase to maximum variance. Maintain course through that large asteroid cluster. The phase drive protested as Susan pushed it beyond tested limits. The Spectre became nearly transparent as it approached a dense cluster of asteroids. Moving at such high phase variance, the ship could pass through solid matter with minimal resistance. The pursuing Vorax fighters could not follow without phase technology of their own. Several Vorax fighters attempted to predict the Spectre's course, firing energy weapons at coordinates where they expected the human ship to rematerialize. Their calculations were impressive, multiple energy beams passing within meters of the Spectre's hull. But Lisa had learned from her experiences aboard the Ghost. She ordered random course adjustments and phase variance fluctuations, making their path impossible to predict. The chase continued for hours, the Spectre maintaining just enough lead to prevent the Vorax from establishing a targeting lock. The human crew worked with grim determination, despite exhaustion. Energy reserves dropped steadily. The phase core temperature fluctuated in dangerous patterns as they approached Saturn's magnificent rings. Lisa ordered power, diverted from life support to the phase drive. The temperature aboard the ship plummeted, crew members donning emergency thermal gear for the second time in recent months, but the additional power allowed them to increase speed just enough to reach the rings before the Vorax could close the gap. The Spectre plunged into the densest part of Saturn's rings. Ice particles and rock fragments surrounded them on all sides. The ship's sensors struggled to function in the chaotic environment, but the same conditions that hindered their sensors would blind the Vorax even more effectively. "Cut main engines," Lisa ordered. "Minimal power to life support, all other systems dark." The Spectre drifted silently, among the ice and rock of Saturn's rings. The phase variance set to precisely match the density of the surrounding particles, making the ship nearly indistinguishable from the natural debris. The Vorax pursuit vessels arrived minutes later. There, powerful sensors sweeping through the rings, searching for any trace of the human vessel. For 6 tense hours, the crew of the Spectre remained in total silence, conserving what little power remained. The Vorax ships methodically searched, expanding outward in a spiral pattern. Their determination evident in their refusal to abandon the hunt. Lisa monitored their search pattern, looking for weaknesses in their coverage. She noted that the Vorax seemed to focus their scans on specific density, patterns ignoring areas where the rings were thinnest, an exploitable blind spot. Prepare for burst phase jump. Lisa whispered to Susan. Target the thinnest section of the F-ring. 15-second power signature, only. Susan nodded, making the preparations. The maneuver was incredibly risky. A burst of power would reveal their position, but if timed perfectly, they could jump to a new hiding spot. Before the Vorax could lock weapons, Lisa waited, watching the alien search pattern. At the precise moment, when all Vorax vessels were oriented away from their target vector, she gave the command. The Spectre surged with power for exactly 15 seconds. The phase drive engaging at maximum output, the ship shot through the rings like a ghost passing through a wall before the Vorax could respond. The Spectre was dark again, drifting in a new section of the rings, all systems once more powered down. The gambit worked. The Vorax detected the energy spike, but couldn't determine its destination. Their search pattern became more erratic, less methodical. After several more hours, the alien vessels began to withdraw. 2 remaining behind while the others resumed course toward Earth. Lisa allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. They had succeeded in their primary mission. The shipyard had been fully evacuated, critical technology and personnel safely relocated. The Vorax had wasted precious time and resources pursuing the Spectre. Now they faced a new challenge, returning to Earth with a damaged ship and depleted power reserves. The Spectre could not outrun the Vorax fleet. They would need to take a longer route, perhaps using the gravity wells of the outer planets to accelerate without engine power. Lisa gathered her exhausted crew, explaining the situation with characteristic honesty. The journey home would be long and dangerous, but they had already accomplished the impossible once. They would do so again. As the last Vorax search vessels finally departed, Susan approached Lisa with a data pad. The engineer had been analyzing the phase core performance during their desperate flight. I think I found something, Lisa. She said, her voice excited despite her exhaustion. The phase variance doesn't just hide us from sensors. It actually bends space around the ship. That's how we can pass through solid matter. Lisa studied the equations, not immediately grasping their significance. Susan continued. If we can control that space-bending effect precisely enough, we might be able to create a controlled wormhole effect. Not true faster than light travel, but a shortcut through normal space. The implications were staggering. If Susan was correct, the phase technology could revolutionize human space travel, allowing ships to create temporary shortcuts. Across vast distances, the tactical advantages would be enormous. We need to get this data back to Earth, Lisa said. It could change everything. With renewed determination, the crew of the Spectre began planning their long journey home, carrying knowledge that might finally give humanity the edge it needed in the war against the Vorax. 3 weeks passed as the Spectre made its slow journey back toward Earth. Using minimal power and Susan's revolutionary phase variance techniques, they created small, controlled spatial jumps, cutting months off their return time. The process was dangerous, each jump straining the already damaged phase core. But they had no alternatives. Earth was under siege. The Vorax fleet had established blockades around both Earth and Mars, their massive warships positioned in high orbit bombarding planetary defense systems. Occasional transmissions reached the Spectre, mostly automated distress signals and fragmented tactical updates. The situation was dire. Human forces were holding, but barely. Lisa studied the latest intelligence data transmitted from a hidden relay station near Jupiter. The Vorax had adapted quickly to human tactics. Their ships now carried sensor arrays specifically designed to detect phase technology, rendering the Phantom drone strategy less effective. The element of surprise was gone. "We need a new advantage," Lisa told her gathered officers. "If Susan's spatial jump theory works on a larger scale, we might have one." Susan had spent every waking hour refining her calculations, testing the phase variance effect on increasingly larger spatial jumps, each success bringing them closer to a breakthrough. The engineer looked exhausted but determined as she presented her latest findings. "The phase core creates a bubble of altered spacetime around the ship," she explained. "When tuned to specific frequencies, it can fold space, creating a temporary bridge between 2 points. It's not instantaneous transport, but it compresses the distance significantly. And you think we can scale this up?" Kelly asked. Susan nodded hesitantly. "In theory, yes. The math suggests we could create a jump large enough to move an entire fleet, but it would require enormous power and perfect synchronization." Lisa considered the implications. If multiple ships could jump simultaneously appearing behind enemy lines, the tactical advantage would be significant, perhaps enough to break the Vorax blockade. "But we only have one phase-equipped vessel," she pointed out. The Spectre, the communications officer, interrupted suddenly. "Commander, incoming transmission. Heavily encrypted Origin Earth Defense Command lunar bunker." Lisa authorized the transmission. A heavily distorted image of Mary Rodriguez appeared on the main screen. The lunar bunker had survived the initial Vorax assault, becoming the primary command center for Earth Defense Operations. "Commander Mason, thank God you're alive," Mary began. "We received your data bursts about the spatial jump technology. R&D teams have been working non-stop to implement it." Lisa felt a surge of hope. "What progress?" Mary smiled despite her obvious exhaustion. "The 2 other Phantom ships have been completed, Wraith and Poltergeist, both equipped with modified phase cores based on your specifications. We're building more, but time is against us. The Vorax have begun landing operations in remote areas. How long until the ships are ready to deploy?" Lisa asked. 3 days, Mary replied. "We're moving them to coordinates in your last transmission. Rendezvous at the Europa Shadow Point. The Vorax haven't discovered that relay station, yet the plan was coming together." 3 advanced phase ships might not seem like much against the hundreds of Vorax vessels, but with the spatial jump technology, they might create enough chaos to allow conventional forces to break through the blockade. The Spectre accelerated toward the rendezvous point, conserving power when possible, but pushing the engines harder than was safe. Their damaged ship protested the strain systems failing across multiple decks. The crew worked continuously, making repairs and adjustments, keeping the vessel functioning through sheer determination. They reached the Europa Shadow Point 12 hours ahead of schedule, the massive Jovian moon providing cover from Vorax long-range sensors. The Spectre powered down to minimal operations mode and waited. Susan used the time to refine her calculations for the coordinated jump. She would need to synchronize 3 different phase cores, each with slightly different calibrations. The margin for error was microscopic. 2 days. Later, sensors detected approaching ships. The crew tensed, preparing for possible Vorax discovery, but the energy signatures matched human designs. The Wraith and Poltergeist had arrived. Both vessels were similar to the Spectre, but with subtle design improvements. Their hulls pristine, unlike the battle-damaged Spectre. Lisa established secure communications with the commanders of both vessels. Alicia Winters aboard the Wraith, and Barbara Chen commanding the Poltergeist. Both experienced officers who had studied the Ghost Inspector's battle records extensively. "We have less than 24 hours to prepare for the coordinated jump," Lisa informed them. Transmitting Susan's calculations. "Now, study them carefully. Your engineers will need to make precise adjustments to your phase cores." The 3 ships drifted in Europa's shadow as engineering teams worked to synchronize their phase technology. Susan moved between vessels, personally supervising the critical calibrations. The plan was audacious, perhaps impossible, but their options were limited. While preparations continued, Lisa received a private transmission from Mary Rodriguez. The news was worse than they had feared. The Vorax had established ground bases on Earth, deploying some kind of atmospheric modification technology. The air in regions under their control was slowly being altered, becoming more suitable for Vorax physiology and toxic to humans. This wasn't just an invasion. It was colonization. We have to strike. Now, Lisa told her fellow commanders, the jump target is the main Vorax command ship in Earth orbit. If we can destroy or disable it, their fleet operations will be thrown into chaos. The phase core synchronization was completed with just hours to spare. Susan returned to the Spectre exhausted but confident. We've done everything possible, she reported. The calculations are sound, but no one has attempted a spatial jump of this magnitude. The stress on the ships will be extreme, Lisa addressed the crews of all 3 vessels. The situation is simple. Earth is running out of time. The Vorax are transforming our planet. We have one chance to break their hold and create an opening for our conventional forces. She outlined the battle plan in clear, precise terms. The 3 Phantom ships would execute a synchronized spatial jump appearing within weapons range of the Vorax command vessel. They would focus all firepower on critical systems, then immediately jump again to a secondary target. The objective was not to defeat the entire Vorax fleet, but to create sufficient chaos to allow Earth defense forces to break through in key sectors as the ships moved into jump formation. Lisa felt a strange calm. The mission was likely a one-way trip. The strain of multiple spatial jumps would probably destroy their vessels. But if they succeeded, humanity would have a fighting chance. Susan initiated the final countdown. All 3 ships powered up their phase cores to maximum output energy. Readings spiked beyond safety parameters. Warning systems blared across all decks. Phase variance reached critical levels. The space around the 3 vessels seemed to bend and distort, as if viewed through rippling water. Susan shouted the final command. Jump now. Reality twisted. The stars seemed to stretch into lines of light. The massive bulk of Jupiter appeared to fold inward upon itself. Every crew member felt a momentary sensation of being in 2 places simultaneously. Then, with a thunderous shudder that threatened to tear the ships apart, they emerged in Earth orbit, directly alongside the massive Vorax command vessel, its hull towering above them like a metal mountain. The alien ship hung in space, its weapons oriented toward the planet below, completely unprepared for enemies appearing from nowhere. All 3 Phantom ships opened fire simultaneously, their advanced weapons striking with pinpoint precision at the command vessel's engines, communications arrays, and weapon systems. The Vorax vessel shuddered under the assault explosions rippling along its length. The element of surprise gave the human ships precious seconds of unopposed attack. The Vorax command vessel listed to one side, secondary explosions cascading through its massive hull. But the alien crew recovered quickly, defense systems activating, fighters launching from multiple bays. Time for the second jump. Lisa ordered through the fleet channel. Susan initiated the sequence again. The phase cores, now dangerously unstable, pushed beyond their operational limits. The spatial jump effect engaged reality bent once more. The 3 Phantom ships vanished, reappearing near Mars where the secondary Vorax command vessel maintained the blockade. Again they struck with perfect coordination. All weapons focused on critical systems. The Vorax response was faster this time, their adaptive technology already adjusting to the human attack strategy. Energy weapons lashed out, catching the Wraith with a glancing blow. The ship shuddered, its portside phase emitters failing. We can't make another coordinated jump. Alicia Winters reported from the damaged Wraith phase. Synchronization is compromised. Lisa made an instant decision. Split up. Target individual, Vorax vessels. Maximum damage. Before they can organize a response, the 3 Phantom ships accelerated in different directions, each selecting targets of opportunity. The Spectre under Lisa's command headed for the Vorax communications hub, a massive array that coordinated the alien fleet operations. Chaos erupted throughout the Vorax fleet, their carefully organized blockade dissolving into confusion as commanders tried to respond to simultaneous attacks across the system. Earth defense forces recognized the opportunity dormant vessels powered. Up-weapons fighters launched from hidden bases. Ground forces engaged Vorax landing parties with renewed determination aboard the Spectre. Lisa drove her ship toward the massive Vorax communications hub. The station bristled with defensive weapons, but its designers had never anticipated an attack from a phase-capable vessel. The Spectre shifted between normal space and phase space, making it nearly impossible to target. Susan monitored the phase core with growing alarm. The experimental drives had reached critical instability. Energy fluctuations threatened catastrophic failure. They would have one attack run before the system failed completely. Make it count. Lisa ordered as they approached weapons range. The Spectre unleashed everything. It had phase torpedoes, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles all striking the communications hub in precise sequence. The station shuddered, massive sections tearing free as explosive decompression rippled through its decks. The primary communications array collapsed inward, secondary explosions cascading through power distribution systems. The communications hub went dark, its destruction immediately apparent in the erratic movements of nearby Vorax vessels. Without centralized coordination, the alien ships began operating independently, some continuing the blockade, others pursuing the phantom ships, still others breaking formation entirely across the system. Similar scenes played out. The Wraith, despite its damage, managed to destroy a Vorax resupply depot. The Poltergeist executed a daring attack on a fuel processing station. The three phantom ships striking critical infrastructure rather than engaging in direct combat with warships. Lisa received fragmented communications from Earth defense forces. The strategy was working. Human fleet elements were breaking through the disrupted blockade. Colony ships that had been trapped in orbit were escaping to predetermined rally points. The coordinated Vorax invasion was devolving into disconnected skirmishes, but the victory came at tremendous cost. The Wraith's phase core finally overloaded the ship, breaking apart in a spectacular explosion that took three pursuing Vorax vessels with it. The Poltergeist reported catastrophic damage. Barely maintaining life support, the Spectre was in no better condition. The phase core had passed the point of no return. Energy cascades threatened to breach containment. Susan fought desperately to stabilize the system, but the damage was too extensive. We're losing the core, she reported. We have minutes at most before complete failure. Lisa made the hardest decision of her career. Set course for the main Vorax flagship, she ordered. All power to engines. Kelly looked up from tactical in shock. The flagship is surrounded by escort vessels. We can't possibly survive an attack run. We don't need to survive, Lisa replied. We just need to get close enough. Understanding dawned across the bridge. The Spectre itself would become a weapon. The unstable phase core, when detonated, would create a spatial distortion that could destroy anything within its radius. The ultimate sacrifice. Lisa opened ship-wide communications. This is Commander Mason speaking. All hands to escape pods. Repeat, all hands to escape pods. The Spectre is on a terminal course. I need a skeleton crew to maintain guidance systems. Everyone else evacuate immediately. The crew hesitated, no one wanting to abandon their commander and their ship. That's an order. Lisa insisted we need survivors to take what we've learned back to Earth. The next generation of ships will need experienced crew. Reluctantly, most personnel headed for escape pods. Kelly Harris stood firm at her tactical station, as did Susan at engineering. The three officers who had served together since the Ghost exchanged glances, no words necessary. They would see this final mission through together. The Spectre accelerated toward the Vorax flagship. The massive alien vessel hung in space, surrounded by escort ships, the centerpiece of their invasion fleet. Without it, the Vorax would be forced to retreat and regroup. Vorax sensors detected the approaching human vessel, defensive weapons activated, escort ships moved to intercept. But the Spectre was moving too fast, its erratic phase shifting, making it impossible to target effectively. Energy beams passed harmlessly through the partially phased. Ship Lisa watched the distance counter decreasing rapidly. Vorax fighters swarmed around them, their weapons ineffective, against a ship that could phase in and out of normal space. The flagship grew larger on the view screen, its enormous bulk filling their field of vision. 1,000 meters. Susan reported core containment at critical failure. Estimate detonation in 60 seconds. Lisa took a deep breath looking at Kelly and Susan, her friends and comrades through years of desperate fighting. "We did it," she said quietly. "Earth has a chance now." The Vorax flagship launched a final desperate barrage, energy weapons, and projectiles filling space around the Spectre. Most passed through the partially phased ship, but one struck a critical system. The helm controls failed. The Spectre began to drift off course. "Manual control," Lisa shouted, rushing to the navigation console. With physical controls damaged, Lisa had to guide the ship using emergency thrusters. Each manual burst adjusting their trajectory incrementally. The flagship loomed before them now, close enough to see individual weapon emplacements and docking. Susan counted down the final seconds. Phase core containment failing, complete detonation imminent. With her last action, Lisa fired the forward thrusters, pushing the Spectre directly toward the flagship's command center. The unstable phase core finally breached containment. The explosion was unlike anything witnessed before. The phase core didn't simply detonate in normal space. It created a rupture between phase space and reality. A sphere of distorted space-time expanded outward, engulfing the Spectre and the Vorax flagship. The massive alien vessel seemed to fold inward upon itself as space-time twisted and collapsed. When the distortion field finally dissipated, nothing remained but scattered debris. The flagship and its command structure, completely destroyed. Across the solar system, Vorax vessels received the news. Their leadership gone, their invasion plan in ruins, their forces scattered and under attack. Without central command, the alien fleet began a disorganized retreat. Some vessels continuing to fight others, abandoning their positions entirely on Earth. Mary Rodriguez watched sensor readings with mixed emotions. The Vorax were retreating. The invasion had been halted, at least temporarily, but the cost had been enormous, and their irreplaceable ships and their brilliant crews lost. One by one, escape pods from the Phantom ships were recovered. Most from the Poltergeist, some from the Wraith, none from the Spectre. Lisa Mason, Kelly Harris, and Susan Patel had made the ultimate sacrifice, ensuring their ship completed its final mission. 6 months later, a new fleet of phase-capable vessels stood ready in Earth orbit, each named after fallen heroes: the Mason, the Harris, the Patel. 20 ships incorporating all the advancements discovered during the desperate defense of Earth. Their phase cores now stable. Their spatial jump capabilities refined and enhanced. The war was far from over. The Vorax would return with new tactics and technologies, but humanity was ready. The sacrifice of the Phantom fleet had given them time to prepare. The phase technology had been improved and expanded, new weapons and defenses developed. The next time the Vorax came, they would find not a vulnerable planet, but a united human force ready to defend their home on the bridge of the new flagship. The Mason Admiral Mary Rodriguez studied the long-range sensor data. The Vorax were rebuilding. Their defeat had been significant, but temporary intelligence suggested they would return within a year, but this time, humans would not be fighting for survival alone. The spatial distortion created by the Spectre's destruction had attracted attention from beyond their solar system. Other species who had suffered under Vorax expansion had detected the anomaly. Some had already made contact, offering alliance and technology. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as defenders, willing to sacrifice everything to protect their home and now their allies. The legend of the Phantom fleet spread throughout nearby systems. The humans who had done the impossible, defeating the previously unstoppable Vorax, as the Mason led the new fleet on its first patrol beyond Pluto. Admiral Rodriguez looked at the memorial plaque on the bridge. Lisa Mason, Kelly Harris, and Susan Patel immortalized in metal and memory. Their sacrifice had changed the course of human history. The ship engaged its phase drive, creating the now familiar ripple effect as it shifted partially out of normal space. Like ghosts, the human fleet moved silently through the darkness, carrying with them the hope of not just Earth, but countless worlds beyond. The end of the Vorax threat was still distant. The path forward, dangerous and uncertain. But for the first time since the alien ships had appeared in their skies, humans looked to the stars not with fear, but with determination. They had faced extinction and survived. They had seen the face of an overwhelming enemy and found its weakness. Somewhere, in the vast darkness, the Vorax prepared for another assault. But this time they would face not just humans, but a growing alliance of species united against their expansion. And leading the defense would be the ships and technology born from the original Phantom Fleet. The legacy of Lisa Mason and her crew living on in each vessel that bore their revolutionary phase drive, the war for survival had become